Hi, this is Sean with JDS Industries, and in this video tutorial we're going to talk about a revolutionary new sublimation product called SubTHAT. And this is a film that you can use to apply to products to create a sublimation product. So no longer do you have to wait for a product to come to market for you to sell. Now if you have an idea, potentially you can use this material on a product and create your own sublimation material. So this is the SubTHAT material is a film, and it comes in three different sheet sizes, or two different sheet sizes in one roll. It's 10 by 12, 14 by 17, and then the roll is 17 inches by 15 feet. And it also comes in three different finishes in those three sizes. So you have a clear gloss, a clear matte, and a semi-opaque white matte. In this case we're using the semi-opaque white matte for our glass to give it a little bit more pop. And in this case, so what we're going to do today, we're going to sublimate glass, and this is a glass piece you see here. We need a couple things in order to do this on glass. First of all, you're going to need a silicone pad, and this is required for all the products that you want to create for SubTHAT. This has no texture on it, and that's really the key to this pad here. This is going to be used in the heat press when you're curing the product. So it's a two-step process. First curing and then sublimating. So the SubTHAT material needs the silicone, it needs the green thermal pad. You also need the primer wipes. Glass is not porous and doesn't have a lot of things. The SubTHAT can't really grab onto it, so the primer wipes are necessary in order to create that adhesion. You also need a squeegee, one that's in good shape that doesn't have any rough edges on it. And I also recommend a scissors, maybe an X-Acto knife, a pencil, and then you're pretty much good to go. So the first steps we're going to do, we're going to take, and I've got a glass piece already created. This is the blank that goes onto our floating glass plaque, and we're going to sublimate and we're going to put the SubTHAT material on the back of this piece first and then sublimate it. So I've already taken the liberty of cutting out a piece to fit the size of the glass piece. This is a 6 by 8 size. And one thing you want to make sure of is not to create too much of a lip. You want to cut this just about to size. A little bit of overlap is fine. So I've cut that to size, and you can, a couple of ways to do that. You can use a scissors, you can use an X-Acto knife. You can also pencil mark it out if you want to trace a line around and then cut it. You can use a paper cutter. Any of those ways are fine. This is a 3-ply product. So there's a slip sheet, there's a polymer film, which is what the sublimation is going to bond to, and then there's a carrier sheet. The first thing we want to do is remove the slip sheet, but let's go ahead and do our primer on our glass piece. These are the wipes for the SubTHAT material, and this is the primer, reusable, part number ST primer if you're looking for it. And it's already coated with the primer in it, so you just have to wipe it onto your glass material to make it bond. And I recommend just wiping this for about 10 seconds and then let it dry for about 30 seconds. And when you're doing this, you want to have a clean environment because you don't want any debris or dust to get in between the product and the SubTHAT material. If you do get something in between those two, you're going to have a little raised mark, and it'll become visible when you actually go to sublimate it. So you want to make sure you have a clean environment when you go to do this. The other thing you're going to need is the Sublimation Transfer. This is a inkjet transfer from Sawgrass printers. All right, we're almost dry here. And I'm going to go ahead and peel the slip sheet, and you can tell what the slip sheet is by putting your finger into the material. One side is really slick, and you can't dig your fingernail into it. The other side is a little bit spongier, and you can actually dig your fingernail into it. And once you've identified which side you need to take off, just take a piece of gold line tape or some other adhesive and pull that away. And now we're going to squeegee on this SubTHAT onto the glass. And this is a really important step, so take your time to get it on there accurately. First you want to square it up there as best you can, and also we're going to start from the middle and work our way out. You want to work all the little air bubbles off of this material as best you can. If they're really small, that's probably going to be okay, but big air bubbles, you do need to remove those from the product. The other thing we're going to do, after we've squeegeed most of these air bubbles out, we're going to make a couple little cuts in the corners. We found that sometimes bubbles get trapped in these little corners, and so we're going to use our X-Acto knife to push through the carrier at about a 45-degree angle from the edge, about a 1/4 inch in, and that will allow any air bubbles that get to the corner to have a exit point. And again, you're not going to hurt the glass. Okay, now we're ready for the curing process. So we're going to put this in the heat press. Because this is glass, we're going to have a Nomex pad down. Anytime you do glass, you'll have a Nomex pad. And we're going to cure this in the heat press at 410 degrees for about 7 minutes. The nice thing is I usually err on the high side when I do these things. The thicker the product, or the larger the product, the longer it may take to cure. Go ahead and err on the high side. So this is a 6x8 piece of glass. It's about a 1/4 inch thick, and we're going to do this for about 7 minutes. It could take longer, so there's no over curing. So go ahead and go above and beyond what you think to start with on a new piece. So go ahead and center it up on your heat press. Again, you're going to have a Nomex pad down. Then you're going to have the silicone pad on top. Make sure that that is also clean without any debris or any marks on it. Anything that can make an impression you don't want on your silicone pad. And then lastly is the green thermal pad. And the pressure is going to be it'll be firm, but not overly. I would call this medium pressure. 410 degrees for 8 minutes. Okay, we're going to remove the products from the heat press. Be careful because everything is going to be hot. And I'm just going to take the Nomex pad and everything and put it on the table. All right, we're going to let that sit, and we want it to come all the way back to room temperature before we do step 2, which is the sublimation. All right, once our substrate is cool, and we know that the SubTHAT film has been cured, we can take off the carrier to reveal the sublimation film. And now we're going to apply the sublimation transfer just like you would a normal product. In this case, it's going on glass, and it's going to be on the back of the piece, so I printed this right reading. There is no text on here, so it's not going to be as crucial, but if you are printing text, you want to make sure that you're printing right reading, not mirrored, because it's going to go on the back of the piece. So I'm going to line my substrate now onto my transfer. Use just a couple pieces of heat tape to hold it in place to get it to the press. We're going to be heating this through the front to the back. So when we put it on the press, we're going to keep the Nomex pad down. Then it's going to be the transfer, then the glass, and then a Teflon sheet. And we'll run this at 400 degrees for about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, once we have everything layered, the pressure is again going to be medium, 400 degrees for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, contents will be very hot, so be careful when you remove things from the press. We'll take this over. Okay, this is the finish transfer, and you know you have a good finish transfer when you see about 90% of the ink transfer off evenly. This is our finished piece. So because this is a glass piece, you can still further embellish this with either sandblasting or lasering either on the front or the back. And this makes a nice piece for sublimation. The SubTHAT material, if you have any questions about it, please contact our sublimation department at 800-843-8853. You can find us on Facebook, and our website is jdsindustries.com.